I just want to thank our sponsors for today, and today's sponsor is Tech, the Executive Connection. I've been associated with Tech for many years. I've been both a member and a facilitator, a Tech chair. Tech is all about better decisions and better leaders. I think from my experience, the leadership and the learnings and the experience of the leaders of these groups have made a very big difference, a huge difference in my business life. And I think that if you contact them on www.tech.com.au, you can connect with Tech, the organisation, and I think it would be in your interests. So thank you, Tech. Welcome back to the show with Steve Samson from the Lional Samson Sadleir Group. Steve, thanks very much so far. This has been really riveting stuff from my side. I'm just interested, you've stepped away from the business now. What are some of the things that you're doing?
Look, I suppose I have to sort of paint a picture with regards to my involvement with FBA. So over the 10 years I was there, I was at the national board for nearly 6 or 7 years, and I got involved with education. So I chaired the education subcommittee that helped develop a lot of the education that's happening now within the organisation. And so, yeah, look, I involved myself as much as I possibly could in that organisation to assist it, and then to the point of actually being national chair for 3 years. And that's really helped me gain a better understanding, because I've worked 29 years in our family business. I've worked 10 years with FBA. I can now share my understanding of hopefully what's best practice and help other families, So, and it's been really nice. There's been I've been approached through FBA, through members, for me to be on boards, advisory boards. And that was just a fantastic opportunity, and I worked totally outside my industry, which was a funeral company. But the chairman was a close friend of mine, and he came from the industry, and he invited me on as another non-exec, and I brought a lot of family business understanding, a lot of process understanding, because I did engineering and quality assurance. But predominantly that advisory board was family. And so the journey that we went through there was trying to actually look at that generational change from first generation to second generation, and we explored over 12 months to see where the next generation, how they want to participate in this organisation. Were they willing to actually buy into it? Did they want to actually run it? And so that was a really interesting journey. And so the chairman was able to professionalise the business because of his industry understanding. And we had some great conversations to get the family to a point where they were all happy with regards to the outcome.
These conversations that you were having with the family, did you have individual conversations with each family member and then conversations as the group?
No, it was at an advisory board level. I think there were one-on-one conversations happening through the chairperson. But yeah, no, it was really just enabling the family to share openly and honestly, and encourage them to see where they wanted to be. And it was fantastic. Where the final outcome was really good for the business, it was good for the family, and it was good for the founder. So, and it took a while, but these things.
You say the final outcome. My mind is thinking, yeah, but it's still a journey, and things will still play out over time. So it's still family involvement within the business.
Yeah. There's still family involvement, but they can be involved as they like. The founder was able to take some money from the business, so he's now able to enjoy his retirement. Although he's now reinvigorated to make sure that the business continues and succeeds, but it's without the pressure of being the owner. So it's been and it was interesting really, because the board was able to be a check for the owner-founder. He had a tendency to go racing off all over town. And so it was nice that he could, the board actually created that opportunity to put him and ask him. He had to justify all his ideas to make sure they stood up before he went off and did them, whereas before he would just do it himself because it was his business. And then that's the role of the board is to help think through these strategies to make sure that they hold water. Yeah.
When he created the board, it was just family, and then there were non-execs that came in from outside.
No, I think it was the chairperson that came in, and then to form it, and then I came in to join as a non-exec with the chairperson. So it was predominantly family with some great assistance from myself and the chairperson. But so one of the challenges was to help the family, work out what they would really want to do, and so to help their thinking and clarification. And to help the owner of the business make sure that he did the right thing by the family and by the organisation, with regards to long-term strategy. Yeah.
Long-term strategy is always a difficult one. I'm sure he would have had, how do I exit? How do I actually get that break? How do I do that without disadvantaging the family?
Yeah, because absolutely. One of the first people to approach the family was some venture capitalists, and I was very strong in saying that, and I think it was agreed fairly easily and quickly that process was that these people really didn't have any engagement with the business. It was about how do we make money out of this opportunity. And that can be such a destructive thing for the family and for the business, especially if the with the founder forming something, it becomes their child, and not just to give the child to somebody else to exploit. So it was good that we went through that process, and then through the chairperson found another opportunity where it was on their terms as opposed to external terms. Yeah.
Okay. You've worked with other family businesses as well. What other challenges have you come across that you've had to work with?
Yeah, look, I'm sort of acting as an unofficial mentor for another family, and I'm actually meeting this afternoon with them. They're huge potential business, but a fairly fractured family situation. So I'm trying to get them to think about what's good for the business, what's good for the family, and how we can get that clarification and awareness, and really, stating it quite openly that the family are the weak underbelly of the business, and if the family falls apart, the impact it can have on the business can be huge, and the fact that if there's any disagreements and things happening over in the family, it can slow down, it can stop the growth of the business, because something over here is dictating the outcome over in the business. So hopefully we can get through that, but I'm trying to be an external person who can facilitate this, because it can't be done from within. The family is so closely aligned, and as I'm sure you appreciate being an advisor, John, is the role of an external person can be a very powerful place where you can just help them see it for what it is. Yeah.
It's always challenging because we, as advisors, we carry bias, unintentional, but we have to be able to recognise it for what it is when we're talking with families.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about FBA. We've talked a little bit about a couple of family businesses where you're working through or have worked through some challenges. The challenge of governance is something that you mentioned earlier. Families in business, I've noticed, are not strong in the governance side of things in general terms. In your particular situation where you've been invited in, what would be 2 or 3 ideas that you might be able to suggest families address when they're thinking about governance?
Interesting question. I think first and foremost, and it's something that I push all the time, is appropriate governance. And so when we were working with a funeral company, with predominantly family members, 2 non-execs. It was an advisory board, really, but it seemed to be appropriate governance for their situation, and we had the office manager who was there as well to be part of that. So it was transparency, open discussions, and informal, and there was an informality that enabled those sort of honest discussions to occur. As the organisation grows, it becomes very, very, hard with regards to just how formalised you should have that governance process. But I think it's the most important thing is the people who sit at that board and what they bring. And you can say, you can have the smartest guy in a particular like industry or area, doesn't necessarily mean they're actually going to add to your business. And so you've got to just make sure you've got the right people in the room and the right dynamics. I think some people can control the boardroom or dictate what happens in the boardroom and to kill open and honest discussion and that because they think that they're right or whatever. And that is a really destructive board situation. When you can't have open, honest discussions with people that know what they're talking about.
You're also going to find how is that communication between that board and the wider family. That's generally where I find some challenges.
Well, in an ideal way, you want to have family members, but on that board. But because in the end, it's a family business, and you want the family to hopefully control the destiny of the organisation and not be taken away, by external parties. And so the way I see it is you need a long-term plan to make sure that you've got family members who have come through the business, they know the business, and you train them up to be, in governance and in as much education as possible. And so the family is able to control the family business, but to bring in expertise when you need it. You don't join a board and you're there forever. You join a board because you offer something in its growth, in its journey. And but you really have to, hopefully, in an ideal situation, the family controls that process because they've got the skill and expertise and experience best.
I really love that statement, appropriate governance. Fit for kind, fit for the place, fit for the people. Thanks very much, Steve. On that note, we're going to break and we'll come back shortly. Please stay with us.
Great.